Your top stories this evening sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. Elderly women killed during home invasion. We've lost devoted Christians at the hands of killers, says a pastor. Representatives of the Indian Action Committee appear before Land's COI. They say the word ancestors is problematic to the IAC. Investigate the death of my child properly, pleads a mother. Glenshon Skeet laid to rest. And child abuse exploitation have serious implications for society. More should be done at the level of the community, says UNICEF. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Tuesday, October 3 edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what you need to know this evening. We take you in the courts to begin our broadcast. 2 East Le Penitence teens were remanded to prison for the murder of a Berbice businessman. This story from Jevon Vickery.
19-year-old Sean DeSantos and 18-year-old Stephen Howard, both residents of Freeman Street, East Le Penitence, made their first court appearance before Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan at the Georgetown Magistrates Court. It is alleged that on September 24 at Lot 194 Freeman Street, they murdered 55-year-old Fazal Shahid during the course of a robbery. The men were not required to plead to the indictable charge. Howard told the court that while he was in custody, he was beaten by the police to confess to the crime. The accused man further said that a rank of the Criminal Investigations Department forced him to implicate DeSantos into the murder. On the day of the incident, Howard's mother, Anita Ward, had told the media that when her son was arrested just hours after the robbery, she was not at home.
He was home. I leave him there. And when I come, my granddaughter told me that the police walked in, kicked down my door, tumbled up my place, and said I was looking for a gun when she asked them what I was looking for. And that's it. And they broke up a lot of things for me. And I demanded to know who is going to replace my door. Armed gunmen on the night of the incident invaded the home as family members were preparing for a memorial service scheduled for the following day. Fazal Shahid of Albion Berbice was killed while his brothers Talim and Shalim were wounded. They have since been discharged from hospital. Police in a statement said that the vicious thieves gained access into the house via a door that was left open and pounced upon the victims who were in the living room. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. Still on the crime front, as we tell you that police are treating the discovery of the bodies of 2 elderly women as murder. Church members say killers have snuffed out the lives of 2 devoted Christians. Here's more. As homicide detectives continue to search for clues that could lead them in the direction of those responsible, members of a South Road Full Gospel Church are mourning the killing of 2 devoted sisters. 88-year-old Constance Fraser and 75-year-old Phyllis Melrose Caesar were Tuesday morning found bound and gagged in their home at Albert Street and South Road, Georgetown. Pastor Winston McGowan told reporters of how the bodies of the women were discovered.
This morning we came because the younger lady, I say young, but she's 73, right? Yes. She normally opens the church. Church is locked in the night, so she will open early in the morning, about 6:30, and then she goes to school on the corner. When we came this morning, nothing was touched, so we figured something was wrong.
Detectives want to believe that the killers pried open this veranda door and made entry into the home. This video, obtained by Nightly News, shows inside the women's home, ransacked. It is unclear what was taken from the house.
When we couldn't find out, we decided we had the church administrator decided we got to break into the place. So they came and they came on the veranda and discovered the discovered the bodies, everything, place ransacked and so on. So it happened sometime during the night because we had a meeting yesterday. We left here about 7:30 last night. So sometime between then and this morning.
This is not the first time that thieves would have entered the house. A credible source related that the women slept through the previous robbery.
They were tied. They tied hand, hand and feet, and mouth as well, you know. Gag.
As undertakers removed the bodies of Caesar and Fraser, church members paid homage to their late sisters by raising their voices in hymns. Police say they are looking at all possible leads. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Thanks for staying tuned to the HGP Nightly News. Representatives of the Indian Action Committee appeared before the Lands Commission of Inquiry on Tuesday. Rodin James reports that the IAC displayed some amount of skepticism over the purposefulness of the Lands COI.
When the second session of the Lands Commission of Inquiry continued public hearings on Tuesday, a representative of the Indian Action Committee appeared before the COI and made clear their concerns. Executive member of the IAC, UG lecturer Mr. Evan Prasad, told the commission that the IAC has serious concerns with the word ancestors, which the Indian Action Committee finds problematic.
Now, the IAC does not feel that the word ancestral has any connection with any human being living here in what is the geographical space of Guyana, either in 2017 or 20,000 years ago when the first Siberians came across.
Commissioner Lennox Caleb clarified for Mr. Prasad the definition of the word ancestors in the context of the Commission's terms of reference.
In the terms of reference, which is what we're guided by, the fuller description refers to the individual, joint, or communally held land of freed Africans. Right? So
Africans, not Africans.
That is one aspect of it. There's also an aspect of Armenian land titling, which, as the chairman has mentioned, has been put on hold. So any reference to ancestral, I rather suspect is purely adjectival.
The IAC is of the opinion that the concept of land has become confused because of history. It is the IAC's contention that private properties did not apply to Africans and other descendants of that era.
First peoples, except maybe for the civilizations of the Mayas and the Aztecs and the Incas, only they probably had the concept of private property. But for the rest of the so-called Americans, the IAC believes there was no concept of private property amongst the descendants of those Siberians who came across, including those who live within the geographical space now known as Guyana.
As it relates to other ethnicities residing in predominantly African Guyanese communities, the Indian Action Committee contends that there is enough land for all Guyanese and there should be no contention over that.
The IAC is opposed to the idea that in the present circumstances of Guyana, that land could be taken away from one set of people to be given to another set.
The Land Commission of Inquiry continues on Wednesday. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. Just as he was being laid to rest, the parents of a child who recently met a tragic death are asking the authorities to dig deeper into how the 6-year-old died. Here are the details. The parents of Glenshawn D'Anka Skeet, the 6-year-old St. Pius student who died after a goalpost reportedly collapsed on him while he had been practicing for his inter-house athletics championship, are calling for a thorough investigation into the death of the child. The tearful mother rebuffed several newspaper articles which suggested that her child had been swinging on the goalpost, which caused it to collapse.
The papers that say that my son was swinging on the pole, he was not swinging. His post-mortem proved that he was hit from the back. He was standing away from the pole and he was hit from the back. The pole was not properly planted in the ground. You can go and see that the ground is not appropriate for children.
The woman is adamant that someone must be held accountable for her child's death, while calling for a closer look into the deadly incident.
So I would like some justice for my son, because I'm losing my son at 6 years. And I would like investigation into this, and I would like some kind of justice.
Without pointing fingers in any direction, the father told Nightly News that on the morning of September 27, young Glenn Sean Skeet was told not to take part in any sporting activity.
So even go and pull him from going. He said, mommy tell you to don't go. And the saw insists that
if you don't
go and beat you. And this will make you go.
His sister attending the same school?
Yeah, she was right there with him.
The Ministry of Education is rendering support to the family, but...
Yes, but I need more, because I'm losing a life. I'm losing my baby. That's my best baby.
Glenn Sean the anchor Skeet was laid to rest Tuesday. Minister of Education Nicolette Henry was also present at the funeral. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Jevon Vickery will tell you now that as drug smugglers continue to find innovative ways to traffic narcotics, a minibus driver and a once wanted woman were both remanded for allegedly smuggling narcotics.
26-year-old Tiffany Collinson appeared before Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan and pleaded not guilty to the charge, which alleged that on September 20 at Lot 50E53 Albertown, she had in her possession 6.742 kilograms of cocaine for the purpose of trafficking. The 26-year-old woman is accused of shipping cocaine laced in hammocks in a DHL package last week. A wanted bulletin had been issued for her arrest, and 4 days later she surrendered herself to Kanu headquarters with a lawyer. Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit Attorney Conyo Sandiford told the court that Collinson had used her mother's identification document to post 4 hammocks in a DHL shipping. Bail was refused and the mother of one was remanded to prison until October 19. Meanwhile, 55-year-old Garfield Parker of Latham was also remanded to prison for attempting to traffic 24.9 kilograms of cannabis along with 200 grams of cocaine. According to reports, about 4 hours on Sunday, the police, acting on information, stopped a minibus and conducted a search at Moruba Police Station. 2 cardboard boxes and a multicolored suitcase was found, and a quantity of tape parcels were retrieved, containing leaves, seeds, and stems suspected to be cannabis, along with a small plastic parcel containing what was suspected to be cocaine. The man reportedly claimed ownership of the drugs and told the police that he was transporting the narcotics for someone in Latam named Marlon. He was remanded to prison until October 11. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. The Child Care and Protection Agency has identified a number of contributors to the secrecy of child sexual abuse in Guyana. But one thing that stands out is the understanding that many parents and guardians are in denial. Kristen Macklingam reports.
There are many factors which contribute to the hidden crime of child sexual abuse in Guyana. However, one significantly influence identified by the authorities is that many parents or guardians of victims live in denial. This is according to Director of the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ms. Anne Green.
The parents or the guardians, they might know of it and they still look the other way. They're in denial. They really don't want to say and accept that abuse is taking place and I have to do something about it. So it's like you're shut out. There's a denial.
Ms. Green explained that most times when allegations of child sexual abuse occur, parents or guardians look at the economic situation. If the accused perpetrator of the abuse is the breadwinner of the family, the crime would most likely go unreported.
But it must stop. This is rape of children at the highest level, and we have to talk about it. We have to early let children know that persons must not touch them inappropriately, and even the people in the home, even daddy and uncle and auntie, sex is not between the two. Early o'clock, persons got to start working, and it starts in the home and the family.
She further stated that in doing so, the child's rights are violated, and that also is a crime. Therefore, it is necessary that children understand what child sexual abuse is and are given the right tools to protect themselves, Ms. Green added. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Several broadcasters, in default of their financial obligations to the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority, are in peril of losing their licenses if they fail to clear their arrears by October 7. More from Rodin James.
Some local broadcasters have begun clearing their arrears with the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority with a view to ensuring that they are compliant as they prepare for relicensing. Broadcasters are indebted to the authority in excess of $100 million in licensing fees for television. Many cable and radio broadcasters were also not in compliance as of December last year. Now that the Broadcast Act is enacted, errant broadcasters are being threatened with sanctions if they fail to pay up. That's the word from GNBA's chairman, Mr. Leslie Sobers.
They're not excluded from honoring the obligation for using its natural resource, which is the electromagnetic spectrum. And they too will have to pay or be taken off the air.
As it relates to licensing fees, Mr. Sobers pointed out that broadcasters should be breathing a sigh of relief since the fees were reduced substantially. Operators in Georgetown who are previously required to pay an annual fee of $2.5 million will now pay $1.2 million, and in Berbice the fees were slashed from $2.5 million to $300,000.
Radio retains its same amount because that's far more profitable than television and cable and television carry the same base rates. So those persons who were called upon to pay $2.5 million across the board are now seeing that the present act has brought them great relief. The only problem that they will have is that they would have to honor their obligations under the law up to the end of 2016.
Recently, it was disclosed that of the 27 broadcast operators, only 6 television and cable operators were compliant as of December 2016. A number of radio stations were also non-compliant. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
While works are being carried out by government agencies to promote initiatives intended to prevent child abuse and exploitation, UNICEF believes that more needs to be done at the level of communities. Kristen Macklingam has this report.
Recent data retrieved by the Child Care and Protection Agency in relation to the rate of child abuse in Guyana brings into stark focus how much more work needs to be done in the country to diminish the prevalence of child abuse. That's according to Officer in Charge at the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, Ms. Audrey Michelle Rodriguez.
As a society, we can and must do all we can to protect children. This includes empowering families and community members to be vigilant and speak out against all forms of abuse, neglect, and exploitation, especially of our youngest and most vulnerable, our children. It is our collective and individual responsibility to protect children from all types of harm.
She explained that while UNICEF takes its role very seriously with regards to the prevention and response to initiatives focused on child abuse and exploitation, working hand in hand with governmental agencies, communities can do much more because such negativities have a serious impact on the fabric of society.
A culture of acceptance increases risks of psychological distress, stigma, discrimination, early pregnancy, HIV, HPV, and other sexually transmitted infections.
According to Ms. Rodriguez, UNICEF and other NGOs remain committed to the cause and will do all that they can to protect children. But the message of prevention of child abuse in all forms must ring clear nationally and globally.
And that message is clearly child abuse, child sexual abuse is a silent emergency. It is silent emergency because the true magnitude of abuse is hidden because it happens behind closed doors and affects both boys and girls.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingam.
Thank you, Kristen. In observance of UNESCO's International Day for Universal Access to Information, the European ambassador advises that sustainable peace and long-term development cannot exist without respect for democratic institutions. Jevon Vickery reports.
EU Ambassador Jarne Benedict explained that the European Union's democracy policy encompasses serious political, social, and cultural rights. The ambassador further noted that the EU believes that democracy is the only political system that realizes all human rights. Ambassador Benedict explained that the Democracy Wall, which was unveiled on Tuesday at the University of Guyana Turkin campus, symbolizes freedom of expression. He further noted that the wall will contain the views of students as it pertains to democracy.
We need to continue improving democratic governance and build it from bottom up, involving all citizens. The European Union stays committed to democratic reforms in our neighborhood and beyond, working together with national governments and the civil society in a true and open partnership.
The ambassador further reaffirmed that the European Union will continue its quest to promote democratic principles and standards globally. Meanwhile, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Dr. Ivelaw Griffith, asserted that the matrix of democracy has several important elements. He further noted that while democracy speaks to human rights, there is also responsibility.
Right to vote, right to free speech. But I also want to remind us that democracy's matrix also have some elements in relation not just to rights, but to responsibilities. If you have the accentuation of rights without reminders of responsibilities, you're only doing part of the pursuit of democracy.
2017 is the second year during which UNESCO marks September 28 as the International Day for Universal Access to Information. On November 17, 2015, UNESCO adopted a resolution declaring September 28 of every year as International Day for Universal Access to Information. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. The use of mercury in extractive industries threatens the planet's sustainability and the survival of people, and therefore it is imperative that other methods be used for the preservation of the world. Here is Kristen Macklingham.
There are countries which are still inclined to use mercury in the extractive industries, in spite of the health hazards it poses to humans and the environment. But Guyana will be pursuing less dangerous methods in the mining industry. That's according to President David Granger.
As you know, mercury gets into a lot of the food products. But the most danger is caused by mercury is in small and medium scale mining, where people use mercury to separate the gold. And once that gets into the soil, gets into the air, gets into the water, people who consume that water, or sometimes even fish or other foodstuffs, could be poisoned, and eventually they can die.
President Granger explained that the government of Guyana has recently signed on to the Minamata Convention to protect the environment against the harmful use of mercury.
So the Minamata Convention was very important, and I was able to address on the world stage, you can say, in Geneva, about Guyana's commitment to eliminating the use of mercury in small and medium scale mining.
The president earlier stated that there must be commitment from all countries, and this commitment must be intensified for the protection of people and the preservation of the planet, since mercury emissions are harmful to people's survival and the planet's sustainability. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Thanks for staying tuned. I'm Stanford Howard with the HGP Sportscast. Colwyn Abrams will tell you now the Guyana Softball Cup 7 will be launched on Wednesday at the Demerara Cricket Club ground. The tournament is set for November 4th to 5th.
The three-day event will be played at various cricket club grounds around Georgetown. According to the president of the Guyana Softball Cricket Association, Ramchand Ragabir, the event will host 8 overseas and 14 local teams. Some of the categories set to be competed are the over 40 male and open youth. This means any youth team can participate. There will also be 2 female matches that will be played on the final day of the tournament. Members of the association and sponsors will be present for the launch, along with the Minister of Social Cohesion, the Honorable Dr. George Norton, and Director of Sports, Christopher Jones, who is billed to deliver the feature address. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Thank you, Colwyn. In cricket, the West Indies will tour Zimbabwe for a short stint at the end of the month. More in this report.
Zimbabwe Cricket has confirmed it will host West Indies for a short tour comprising of 2 tests in Bulawayo later this month. This will be Zimbabwe's first test engagement since their tour of Sri Lanka in July. The first test will be played from October 21st to 25th, while the second will follow from October 29th. Both matches will be played at the same venue, the Queen's Sports Club. A 3-day warm-up from October 15 will precede the series opener. Brandon Taylor and Kyle Jarvis are both expected to make their international comebacks during the series. The pair left Zimbabwe in 2015 and 2013 respectively to play in England on Cole Park deals. Their inclusion is significant because Zimbabwe will depend on them during 2019 World Cup qualifiers, which would take place in their own country next March. West Indies, who failed to qualify automatically, will be among their opponents in that tournament, and Zimbabwe will perhaps use this series to gauge how they will match up. This will be West Indies' second tour to Zimbabwe in the last 12 months. They featured there in a tri-series also involving Sri Lanka in November last year.
Kieran Pollard and Darren Sammy are to lead 2 sides in Port of Spain on October 14 to raise funds for victims of the recent hurricane in the Caribbean. A Caribbean Select 11 will take on a Trinidad side. The Trinidad side will be captained by Pollard, while Sammy will lead the Caribbean Select 11 in the charity match team, rebuilding the Caribbean 1 over at a time. Alongside the proceeds from ticket sales, containers will be placed around the ground to collect canned items and clothing. 2017 Guyana Cricket Board Jaguars 3-day league went into day 3 of round 5. With wins for East Bank, Essequibo, Georgetown, and Lower Quarantine. Colwyn Abrams has more.
As the East Bank continued batting on Sunday from their close of play score of 62 for 2 after 25 overs, they accomplished their goal by attaining 145 in 46.2 overs, winning with 4 wickets in hand. Sachin Singh 23, Dashan Prasad 28, Sharfain Rutherford 16, Stephen Jacobs 17, and Ronaldo Ali Mohammed 15 not out. Bowling for West Berbice, Godish Moti 3 for 42, while Derek McCalmont, Andrew Dutchin, and Leon Andrews each got 1 wicket. Over at Port Morant, Essequibo continued to strike after having a 204 runs lead over Upper Quarantine and were able to attain a total of 454 runs all out after 93.7 overs, which placed them in a 297 lead. Bowling for Upper Quarantine, Ian Hooper swept up 7 wickets for 116 runs and David Lachia 3 for 78. Upper Quarantine went into bat but fell short of their target of 298 by 170 runs. Bowling for Essequibo, Anthony Adams picked up 6 off 29, Ronaldo Adams 2 for 52, and Akini Adams 1 for 14. At the Tushan ground, West Demerara resumed on 43 for 2 from 14 overs, reached 167 for 8 of 52 overs at lunch. Akashia Prasad made a solid 51. Teenage sensation Ashmead Ned ripped through the West Demerara top order and grabbed 6 for 70 from 23 overs by lunch. On resumption after lunch, Stephen Shankar was introduced to the bowling attack and claimed 3 relatively quick wickets to finish off his bowling for 19 runs as Demerara was bowled out for 186. Ashmead Ned ended with 6 for 76. Paul Wintz 1 for 42. Georgetown, needing 124 for victory, reached their target of 21.5 overs. Robin Bacchus hit a consolidated unbeaten 52 and Christopher Barnwell 47. Bowling for West Demerara, Kashram Suhedin took 3 for 31. Georgetown won the match by 6 wickets. On day 3 over at Lisignan, Lower Quarantine was 405 for 7 declared in 109.3 overs. When East Coast took to the crease, Kevlon Anderson finished off his batting with 120 off 316 balls. Sean Hettimeyer 43 off 73 balls, and Versami Permal 17 off 9 balls. In the East Coast bowling lineup, Cordell Mars picked up 1 for 47, Kumar Bishdia 4 for 51, and Amir Khan 2 for 73. In the East Coast innings, they were only able to amass 97 all out in 34.5 overs, with Ramnarayan Chatura top scoring with a fair 33 runs. Joshua Prasad 17 and Chandrapal Hemraj 12. Lower Quarantine won by an innings and 141 runs. Round 6 is set to commence on Friday. For the HGP Sports, Colwyn Abrams.
Thank you, Colwyn. West Indies players who opt to play matches in Pakistan during next year's Pakistan Super League will benefit from Pakistan Cricket Board Lagis, with foreign players being offered US $10,000 per game. The match bonuses would be paid in addition to the players' existing contracts, with the hope of encouraging international players to make themselves available for Pakistan's home matches. For the first time next year, the Pakistan Super League is set to host 6 to 8 matches in Pakistan. That's all we have for this edition of the HGP Sportscast. Back to you, Travis.
Elderly women killed during home invasion. We've lost devoted Christians at the hands of killers, says a pastor. Representatives of the Indian Action Committee appear before Land's COI. They say the word ancestors is problematic to the ISE. Investigate the death of my child properly, pleads a mother. Glenn Sean Skeet laid to rest. And child abuse exploitation have serious implications for society. More should be done at the level of the community, says UNICEF. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, you can go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.